Howdy, welcome to another edition of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains. We're going to be talking about Ted DeGrazia today. And you know, he's noted for taking paintings up into those mountains and burning them. We have pictures of it. But there's another story about a group of paintings that he took up there and either hid or buried. Did it happen? We're going to talk about it today on Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains with Larry Hedrick. Let's have a listen. Okay, tell us about DeGrazia. Now, I heard the one story, but there's actually two times that he went up in the mountains. Is that correct?
Ted DeGrazia, of course, is a well-known artist, and he got in a tiff over taxes. I don't know that he owed them or just what, but he was just dead set against all the taxes the federal government was trying to levy, and so in protest, he went up to Angel Springs, which is up at the end of Hewlett Canyon. And this is where the cliff dwellings are that we've mentioned. And he burned a bunch of his paintings. Now, I've seen pictures of this. I've been there after the fact and found pieces of the burning stuff and what have you.
Okay, so he burned paintings, but did he actually go back up there and bury something?
A few years later, he went in. He was being packed in by Crater. You were mentioned Donnelly. Donnelly and Crater were well-known packers into the Superstitions. And my friend and Crater took them in, but they didn't stay. They were going to come back and take them out. And there were about 5 people involved in this party that stayed in there. And I hope I don't forget his name, but one of them was a well-known packer that worked for several different people who had permits to go into Superstitions. Bud Lane, he's passed away. And when I heard about the burying of the paintings, I knew that Bud was there. So we were on a trip one time where we were in the mountains for 6 days. And we had a bunch of Eastern foot people, and my friend wanted me to go along with him, and we went horseback. They gave me a free horse, and our job was to keep them on the right path from place to place where the camps were already set up and food would be, and if anybody got hurt, get them out. That was our job. And the next to the last day, we were at Angel Springs. And Bud was there, and everybody was gone out of the camp, and I went over to talk to Bud. And I asked him about what happened with what went on that day that the paintings were supposedly buried. Now, I believe what Bud tells me because Bud could tell a story like anybody else. I mean, he could have you eating out of the palm of his hand, and it'd be a complete lie. But if you ask him straight up, he gave you a straight answer. And the reason I know that is when I started my Civil War thing, I wanted to start by building a 3-inch ordnance rifle, full-size gun, a cannon. And I was looking for wheels off of wagons. And he says there's all kinds of wagons up at Tahachi Indian Post north of Gallup. And I went up there and bought 20 wagons for $200 a piece. On his word, and they were there, and I made the deal, you know. And I built cannon, I built chuck wagons and stuff like that, and then I went to sell the wagons, and somebody heard that I had them, and he come out and he had 20 McClellan saddles, and I traded him wagons for saddles, and the cavalry come into existence overnight. And that was all based upon this man's word. You ask him a straight up question, you got the truth. You ask him BS and he'll give you that. So anyway, he told me that he was in the camp alone with DeGrazia, that everybody else was up at the ruins, and he took the 6 plastic carts that had the cylinders that were capped, that were on the horses when they come in, stuck them under his arms, walked off down towards the springs and turned south. He didn't have a shovel, he didn't have a pick, he had nothing but the map cases. And he was gone about 15 minutes and he was back. And this told me he didn't dig and bury anything. He knew exactly where he was going to put them. He'd been there before and all that sort of stuff. So based upon that information, I organized a group to go out. A couple of my cavalry guys and some Boy Scouts were going out there that had done some work with us at the museum building maps of the superstitions. The kids were totally uncooperative. They were everywhere, and they were in the ruins mostly. They didn't care about anything because I was there to use them to hunt for these things. But so I took off by myself. I went down towards the springs and turned south, and there was a well-driven path down there because they were still grazing cattle in there at the time, and these cattle were going to where the water was. And I don't know how far it was, not very far. Football field length, maybe 2. There was a rock corral about 3.5 feet high, and there was water troughs built there and all this sort of stuff. I had already been around the edges of the perimeter looking at the hills and stuff. There was absolutely nothing where you could just hide something without digging. But in this corral were a number of places that you could possibly just hide those map cases. I didn't do anything about it at the time. And I came back and the next time we went in was several years later, and it was so overgrown because there was no cattle out there grazing. The forester put a stop to that. And the cat claw was so thick you couldn't even crawl on your hands and knees and go down where that path was. So I never really got back to see if I could find them. And the time just didn't allow me to look thoroughly enough the day I was there. But I'm firmly convinced. I know that the maps were taken in there. What they were in plastic cases, they were sealed, and they were hidden, not buried.
Okay, now, are these maps or are they paintings?
Paintings.
Paintings.
Map cases.
Map cases.
The paintings were in the map
And
cases.
this is where now?
Angel Spring.
So if I go up to Angel Springs and look for some ruins, then I can find the paintings, right?
Unfortunately, I've learned that the corral has been torn down to make a small dam to retain water. But the troughs are still there. You can still tell when you're there. Mm-hmm. And there was some barbed wire involved too. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You know, that's a good story, Larry. He burned, but why did he go back up and bury paintings?
I think it was just more publicity. I really do. I think it was strictly for publicity. It was written up all over the place.
Oh.
And lots of people have been out there looking for it.
You know, to tell you the truth, I had heard about the burying of the paintings, but I wasn't aware about the burning of the paintings till I went up to the Superstition Museum there and saw a picture of it.
Right,
Burning them
right.
there that I'm sure came from you, but...
No, I didn't take it. It was a newspaper article.
Well, anyway, it's there at the museum, but I was more aware of the burying. That's the big story, was the burying of or hiding of the paintings up there.
Everybody thinks they're buried. I think they're hidden. How can you do that without a shovel or a pick?
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing and what he was going to do it.
After the first airing of the DeGrazia story, we got a lot of texts and messages of all kinds about the rangers up here removing the hidden paintings or the buried paintings in the tubes from the mountains. I reached out to the DeGrazia Foundation and asked them about it, and they said that they get people calling them all the time saying that they have the tubes with the paintings and that they will sell them back to them. They say there has never been any substantiation of any paintings that have been buried or hidden up there being found, tubes or otherwise, and that if I ever heard of any, that they should be notified. They say in their opinion, nothing was ever actually hidden up there, and that DeGrazia wanted to create his own mystery of the Superstition Mountains. Now, people actually did see him take the tubes up into the mountains, and they actually did see him come out without the tubes. But could he have gone back up there and taken them back out again? Another mystery of the Superstition Mountains. See you next time.